Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to Future Proofed, the podcast where we're decoding how founders, CEOs, and leaders are using AI technology as well as data and automation to work smarter and just improve our overall value to the market. So if you're looking to future-proof your business, you are definitely in the right place. And real quick, before we jump into today's episode, for everybody that knows us, if you just want to collab on some ideas for AI, you don't know where to start, there'll be links in the show notes for my calendar for 30 minutes, no pitch. We just collab with people. We're here to help, not here to pitch. Anyway, let's jump into today's episode. Kevin Johnson from Secure Ideas. Kevin, I am so excited to talk to you today. It's going to be fun. So welcome. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. I always laugh when people say, I'm looking forward to talking to you. And it's like, you don't know.
Yeah.
You hope you're looking forward to talking to me. There are lots of people over the last way too dang long that have regretted talking to me.
Well, for what you do, and when we jump in, I totally get that, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Let's start here. I always say, let's start with how you got here to Secure Ideas. Tell us about your leader's journey, your background.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm a nerd. I've been a nerd for a very long time.
Like, did you grow up a hacker or you just came by?
Yeah, we don't talk about 14-year-old Kevin.
Yeah.
I think statute of limitations is run out. So, my twin brother and I, we were fascinated with computers. I like to say we were poor white trash, right? But we grew up just north of Boca, which is where IBM built the first PC, right? And so we were surrounded by people who were involved in making the computer industry, right? And so we were exposed to it, everything else like that. We got lucky. And I graduated high school. And I got a job writing code, and very quickly had to learn new languages and stuff like that. So my career path has been weird. I started out writing code at what we would call a startup today, but back then was just a new company, right? Like, you know what I mean? And
I started my career the same exact way. It's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
But I realized I was not a coder, so that was my one and only coding job.
Okay. See, I was a coder, so it worked. And I actually was working on a project writing code to control the power grid, right? Like to route power through the power grid, which was, like, bluntly, as an 18-year-old kid, I did not understand the significance of what I was building, right? Like,
Right.
Like it was just,
How could you? Right. Yeah.
it was just a job, right? Now looking back on it, I'm like, oh my God, who trusted stupid Kevin to do that, right? But and so I basically did a lot of stuff in IT, whether it was development or administration or whatever, right? Because back then, I'd rather not admit that it was 30 plus years ago, but 30 plus years ago, you weren't an admin or a developer, you were a computer person. And you did stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of micro roles, right? You were just,
And so did a little bit of everything, moved back and forth in jobs, worked at Alamo, worked at Blue Cross, American Express, whatever. And then I got an opportunity. Security was an interest. Obviously, I had played around with stuff when I was young, and, security was part of everything I did. And I got an opportunity to get a job as a consultant. And so I took the job and I'm like, yes, done. Right. And I was working for this company, and we were doing everything from forensics and incident response, actually boots on the ground, figuring out how you got hacked and whatever, to penetration testing, or, a lot of people will refer to it as ethical hacking. I always find that funny because, in my opinion, all hackers have ethics.
Right.
Their ethics may not match yours.
Right.
So, the idea is, and you're going to break in, find holes, figure out what the risk is, and then explain what that is to the customer. And I did that for a while with this company. And then bluntly, I got tired of travel. I was traveling 50% of the time. I had young kids, and I just got tired of it. And so I decided I was going to move on. I talked to my boss. I mean, Mike Poor was my manager. He was one of the owners of the company, and he was awesome. I literally went to him and said, man, I'm stuck. This is my problem. What can I do? And we talked about it. And he was something I very much respect and try to live is as the leader of the company, his job was to make sure that I was where I needed to be. Whether that was with them or with
Or
someone
without
else,
them,
right?
right.
Like,
Exactly.
let's help you accomplish what you want. And so he said, look, Kevin, we're a traveling consultancy, right? Like there's zero position here for somebody who doesn't travel. So let's see what we can do. And I got a job at Bank of America, and I was going to build a red team there for the audit department. And when I got the job, I said to my new boss, I said to my old boss, Mike, hey man, how much notice do you need? Like we can talk about 2 weeks notice that everybody talks about, but I currently have work scheduled in October, right? Like 2 weeks doesn't quite cut it, right?
Right.
And he said, well, can you do stuff on the side? And I said, I don't know. The idea was I would work a little bit at night and help him out while he found somebody to replace me. And so I went to my new boss and I said, hey, can I do this? And I found out later that he had actually negotiated with HR an exception to the rules to allow me to do this. And there were limitations, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't work for another bank.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like anything like that. So literally the Monday I started at the bank, that night I started Secure Ideas, which was really just me helping out my previous employer.
Yeah.
Right. My banking career lasted 2.5 months.
Wow.
We're now 15 years later. August will be 15 years. And we have 32 employees. And,
fantastic.
This accidental business seems to be running well. So, odd path, but I don't think it's that different than a lot of people end up, right? Like I didn't
start on the side and then it takes off, and next thing you know, wow, this is fantastic, right? And then you have to evolve all those other skills you weren't prepared for, which is running a company, right?
Well, when you get to a certain point, like when it was like 4 of us, right? It was easy. We're all friends. We're all hanging out, right? Like whatever. We now have 31 people spread out across the country. We actually have 1 employee in Canada. Like we just ran into it. Was it last year or the year before? I don't know. One of our employees bought a house, and not buying the house was not unique. But when he bought the house, he lives right on our state border. And so when we hired him, he was in one state. Well, right across the border in the other state the houses were cheaper. And so he bought a house he went from North Carolina to Virginia, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And he didn't tell us he was moving to Virginia. He didn't think anything. Like to him, it was, 2 miles that way or 2 miles this way, right? Like what's the issue? And 3 days before the closing, somebody was having a conversation with him, myself and my business partner. And we were just talking about hey man, you excited about closing on the house, whatever. And he's like, oh man, yeah, I got to drive into Virginia to sign all the paperwork. And I was like, why do you got to drive into Virginia? Like that seems weird, right? Oh, that's where the house is. Well, we don't have any employees in Virginia. And I'm sure you know this, right? Like you have to do unemployment insurance. You've got there's all new rules and all this kind of stuff. And
for your employee moving 2 miles down the road is crazy. Yeah.
Right. And we're like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, and we didn't know. And of course, nothing against him. This isn't him screwing up.
Right.
He doesn't have to worry about all that stuff. He doesn't know anything.
Right.
So learning all of I have to deal with HR. I have to deal with, all
the things that are not part of your core job. And now, now you're putting hats on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't even like wearing hats. So,
So tell me about how Secure Ideas has evolved, and tell me what you see the outlook is over the next year or two.
Well, it's going to be amazing. We're going to be worth billions of dollars by next week. No.
Of course. Yes, exactly. Your multiple just went up by 30, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, how have we evolved? Well, when I started, right, when we started, we were security. What do you need? Can we do, we did incident response, we did forensics, we did penetration testing, all of these different things. And one of the main things we evolved in was to really just focus on a set of related services. So we only do penetration testing and related stuff. So everything we do, and for the people who don't know, because penetration test is a weird test name, service name, basically we are hired by companies to break in, steal stuff, and tell them how we did it. So everything from we break into websites or networks to we will physically break into buildings, right? And get in and do, different things inside the building, depending on what the target is, right? I've always laughed. I own a FedEx uniform. I bought it on eBay, and so it was delivered by a UPS, which I thought was hilarious. Right.
That's fantastic.
So,
that is fantastic.
I think the biggest evolution beyond just really focusing on what we're good at, right? This is because I'll be blunt, right? As a beginning business owner, in my head, it made sense that if somebody wanted to pay me to do something I was capable of doing, and legal and contracts and all that kind of stuff,
right?
Why wouldn't I do it? And then I've realized, working with my business partner, Jason, he and I have talked about it a lot. He drove a lot of this, is that, we can do a lot of things, but what can we do well? What can we do well consistently, right? And trying to be everything for everyone is exhausting.
Does not work.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. The other big evolution is really thinking about bureaucracy. And I hate to say that. And I actually think, before we started recording, you mentioned, what are things AI could be good for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bureaucracy is it. And what I mean by that is, for us, when I started and we grew a little bit, there's 4 or 6 of us, we all just kind of hung out, right? If we were doing something, Jason knew how to do it, or Tony knew how to do it, or whatever. Now, as we've grown, well, one, right off the bat, we're big enough now that I can't talk to everybody every day.
Yeah.
Right. 15 years ago, I had no issue talking to everybody in the company in and out.
Yeah. Right.
Now it's hey, how do we handle this? How do we do that? So there's a level of bureaucracy. Maybe that's the wrong word, but a level of bureaucracy that we had to add, right?
Yeah.
Managing teams, dealing with personal issues, people needing PTO, people, right now we're working on scheduling. We've worked with Disney Institute to get a class down in Orlando set up, and we're going to bring the whole company into Orlando for this training class. When it was 6 of us, bringing everybody into one place for something was really easy.
Yeah.
31, right off the bat, figuring out a 3-day period where everybody is available. That alone is a level of effort that I never would have thought about. Like, if you had said to me, Kevin, it's going to take you a bit to figure out if everybody's available, I would have laughed at it.
Yeah.
Like, why not? I'm just going to look at the calendar and go, everybody's available. No big deal.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest, I think, between narrowing focus to what we're really, really, really good at, and
which is really smart, by the way, to do that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that if I'm watching this and I am a CEO or a founder or a CISO, I am thinking, all right, Kevin, tell me how things aren't going to get 10 times worse for me, right? Worrying about people breaking in with AI coming in. And so what would you tell them?
Well, this is not a popular answer because people don't like this. People like to hear that AI is going to make things harder to secure, that AI is going to be these really cool hacks. The reality is, I tell everybody, and I'm jumping a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
You ever look at a newborn baby, right? Most people have seen a newborn baby. Right?
Yeah.
How many times do you look at a newborn baby and say, oh man, they're so adorable? Right? Oh, your baby's beautiful. Your baby's wonderful. That you're lying to new parents. Newborn babies don't look human. They don't have kneecaps. Their skulls aren't completely formed. They're squishy people, right? Like the reality is newborn babies are weird looking. And I'll point out, I have kids and they know I feel this way.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. It takes about 2 or 3 months for this to become a person. Like to look like a person. We lie to new parents. Why do we lie to new parents? So that the species continues. Like if you looked at a newborn baby and looked at the mom and went, what did you do?
Right.
Nobody would have babies.
Like a Seinfeld episode, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's funny. I've never seen Seinfeld, and which makes me odd.
Yeah.
But what I would say to the CISO or the founder or the CEO is, I'm very sorry, but your baby is plain and simple. And so if you're worried about AI being the way the hacker is going to get into your organization, or AI being the way that the attacker is going to leverage. We're gonna do an AI generated person and spoof coming in, and it'll really be North Korea. The reality is your password is probably spring 2025 with a capital S, and you laugh, but the reason it is because most people. Now, let me be clear: if your password is spring 2025, just change it. Don't tell me.
If you're watching this, please just change it.
That. People will be like, well, I have to have an uppercase and a lowercase and a number, and I got to change it every 90 days so the season works.
Yeah.
Like regularly, we break into companies with permission by setting the password to something like that. The reality is, you're probably still running old versions of Windows. You've got applications that you don't know how they work. The AI is an amazing thing. AI is changing how we do things every day. And I love it. I want to be clear. I am on board. Every time I'm recorded, I bow to my robot overlords. When AI takes over and is looking to hunt down humans, it can call me because I'll snitch. But no issue, right? All the AI systems, I've said this enough times, like, I'm cool. I'll help you out. Yeah. But there are badnesses. There are things an attacker can do with AI, things I can do with AI that will cause you problems, right? But the reality is, for most organizations, the risk is bigger elsewhere. Other parts of their system. And I don't mean that to scare people. Like, this is not be afraid, the world is ending, right? We're not RFK Jr. But what I'm saying is, you probably don't know how an attacker looks at your organization. And because you probably don't know how an attacker looks at your organization, you don't know where you should focus to fix.
And how to defend it, right? Yeah.
And so be careful, right? And I'll be clear, I'm a vendor, right? I'll admit that. But most vendors, when they talk to you, they want to scare you. They want to convince. When we talk security, right?
Yes, absolutely. Makes sense.
Those hackers in China, they're gonna own everything. And if you don't buy my product and install it everywhere, the reality is the vast majority of security would be made better with basic hygiene, right? We teach kids to shower every day and wear deodorant and button their pants. Whatever, right?
Yeah.
The
same principle. Yeah.
It is, right? You don't need anything new and whiz bang, feature rich, right? Whatever. Just do basic things. A good example, right? Very simple example. Use multi-factor authentication on every system that supports it. Period.
Absolutely.
If people implemented MFA on their email and their bank account and all their important systems, my job would be harder.
Yep. Absolutely. That's a great, and that's so simple, right? Yeah. And whether it's a text message or just an authenticator app, right? Two-factor authentication, right? You know what's so funny about that, Kevin? I hear all the complaints from people in our friend group about their Facebook getting hacked, and I'm like, if you just turn on MFA, two-factor MFA, you're great, right? Because it's not happening. Yeah. Right? They're going to take the low-hanging fruit.
Exactly. What I say to everybody is, MFA doesn't solve the problem. I can get past MFA. Right. I can.
Right. But do you want to? Do you want to take the time to do it, right? You don't need to.
But do you remember, I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming you and I are relatively peers.
We're pretty close, I'm sure.
Yeah. Do you remember the club for your car?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Went on the steering wheel. Yeah. And couldn't turn the steering wheel because it hit the windshield. Do you know how long it took somebody to
I had a Jeep, and it was all, there was nothing.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Do you know how long it took to take the club off of a car? If you were a bad person and wanted to steal the car. Do you know how long it took?
Probably 10 seconds.
45 seconds.
Wow.
45 seconds. You took a razor. It's a knife that's curved, right?
Yeah.
Put it on the steering wheel and slice it, and you pull the club right off. I'm not telling you this so you can steal cars.
Right.
I'm telling you this as the club was not a security control. The club was a deterrent.
Makes sense.
If a car thief walked up to a parking lot and that car had a club and that car didn't, they went to that car. Unless it was targeted, look, you have a Lamborghini with a club, I'm taking the 45 seconds. Right. Wait, nothing against your Jeep, man. I'm not trying to make fun of Jeeps.
Yeah.
But I'm not messing with the club with your Jeep because there's probably another Jeep down the road that doesn't have it.
That doesn't have it. Right. I totally get it.
That's MFA.
Yeah.
MFA is the club of authentication.
That's a great way to describe that. Yeah, because I have heard, it's funny. I've talked to a couple of security guys. They said I can get past MFA, but you're right. What? Why bother when you don't have to?
Right.
Right.
You're using the Facebook example, right? Like
Yeah.
there are 87 billion people using, Facebook. That's probably an
Right.
exaggerated, made up number. But
Right.
let's go
It's
with
it's
it.
it's big though. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
the usage of MFA there, very small.
Yeah.
Online bank accounts. Do you know how many people I talk to? How many people I've worked with that don't have MFA on their bank account?
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Totally get it. I love it. I love it. So where do you see the things going here in the next, year and a half with AI in the security industry? Because I think there's a lot of folks out there that this is one of their biggest things. And when they worry about their intellectual property
Yep.
being stolen, right? Yep. And one of the things I get, Kevin, a lot is, hey, I want to use OpenAI. I don't want to upload anything into a commercial tool that is my IP, and I totally get where they're coming from, right?
Yeah, they're wrong.
So right, and
all right, they're wrong, and here's why I say they're wrong. Like I bet you, I guarantee this. Okay, you talk to one of them, and they say, "I don't want to use OpenAI because I don't want to upload my stuff. It's a commercial tool, whatever." Yeah. And I would turn around and say to them, "That's really cool. That's a reasonable thought process if it was possible. But do you use Google? Do you use Edge? Do you use Chrome? Your data is already being uploaded to AI systems?
Yes.
Right? I'm sorry. I hate to tell you that." Yeah. But this is like, I had this guy once. I was at this event. I travel a lot. I do a lot of speaking and keynoting and whatever. And I was at this event, and it was like this. So I'm an IANS faculty member, along with being an owner of Secure Ideas. And they brought me out to, I think it was Texas. I don't remember where I was. I was in some place at a restaurant, and it was a dinner. And what they did was they brought business people, owners, managers, executives, whatever, into this dinner. And it was like 12 of us. And it was like, okay, and I want to be very clear. I love IANS. The name of their service is an Ask an Expert. And I've always joked that it's the most conceitedly named service in the world, right? Because I'm the guy, right? I get on this call and they're like, and Kevin will be your expert today.
Right.
And I'm always like, really? I got to live up to that?
Yeah.
So we're at this dinner, right? And I'm the expert. And we're talking about cloud. Okay, which before AI, cloud was
the big thing, right? Yeah.
We're all around this table. Like I said, there was like 12 of us at this table, and we're all talking about the risks of cloud and dealing with it. We're bouncing back and forth, and this guy who was sitting next to me is basically like, "Yeah, we don't use cloud at my organization." And everybody's asking him questions, and he's like, "Yeah, I put that's a hill I'm going to die on. I planted my flag. We're not doing this."
Well, there's always one of those. There's always one of those in a group. Yeah.
Yeah. And the guy starts explaining stuff. And I'll be blunt. What he was describing, while I could agree or disagree with him, right? Not arguing his point was good. What he was describing was he had successfully blocked all cloud usage at his organization. Which at the time, it was a number of years ago, but at the time, for most people, that seemed impossible. People were rushing down the path, whatever, doing all this kind of stuff. And the guy was like, and so everybody around the table is asking him questions because the general consensus at that point was they were worried about their data getting up into the cloud and being stolen, leaked, which is very, in my mind, very, very similar to the fear of uploading it to a LLM or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're all asking him questions, and he's answering them well. Like I'm thinking, wow, this guy's he's really accomplished this. That's kind of cool. And I asked him a question, and I want to be very clear. In hindsight, I can see where the question seems like it was a trap, but it wasn't. I honestly thought he had accomplished this mythical goal of blocking all cloud usage, right? And I just looked at him and I'm like, hey man, I gotta ask. This sounds good, right? Like I'm not saying whether you're right or wrong, but what you're describing is what a lot of people want. That's awesome. You've had some really good ideas on how to do it. Just one question: how did you block Office 365? He looked at me and goes, "Why would I have blocked Office 365? Like we use Office. This is so you guys. Wait, you didn't block Office 365?" And the guy's like, "No." And I'm like, And this is when I realized that I now have to pop this dude's bubble, right? Like I don't mean to,
Right.
but it's like, dude, and I say dude way too much for somebody who doesn't surf, but
Right.
I'm like, dude, Office 365 is a cloud-based.
Right. You're living in the cloud. Right.
Right. Like that's,
Yeah.
it is the cloud.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
and this dude started to retort, like started to be like, no. And he stopped and his eyes got really big. And he said, I need to go. And he stood up and he walked out.
Wow.
And I don't know what he was doing, like whether he was going to be like, I got to edit the policy or like whatever it was.
Yeah.
But basically, this guy had planted his flag. He had custered a hill where he decided, I don't know if custard a hill is a good phrase.
Yeah.
Let's go.
You termed it, so it works.
Yeah,
I like it. Yeah.
So, he had decided he had solved this problem and damn it, that was what it was going to be. And he had completely misunderstood what he was using. And I think very often with AI, that is where people are. They have this mindset that it's this box.
Right.
And as long as we can take this box and put it on that shelf and not touch it.
And it's not how it works. I totally agree with you.
Exactly.
Yep. Totally agree with you. I love it. All right. So I told you I was going to ask you, Kevin, honestly, I think there's people that just need you to really just have the basics conversation with secure ideas, because I really do think what you laid out is where most people miss, right? And I feel like that they're trying to boil the ocean, and really they need to do is cover the basics first. Start there, which blocks probably 95% of what they really need to do.
You can solve most problems. And I want to be clear, there is no like look, I'm a business owner. We're in business to be in business, right?
Yeah.
I would like people to hire us, but the reality is we as a company live on the idea that we need to share knowledge. So if anybody has any questions, all they got to do is reach out. Like we'll answer questions. There's no,
and we'll have all the links below because they really need to, right? That collaboration's huge.
Yeah, we always laugh and say we're not lawyers. We don't bill you when we think of you, right? Like we'll answer questions. We'll give you pointers on how to do stuff. That's easy. So, but I know you have a question that you were getting to.
So if you could use AI to fix one thing in secure ideas, what would that be?
Okay, so I'm going to give you two answers.
Yeah,
and the answers are going to be different based on focus. If what I'm doing is fixing something for my clients, right, with AI, and I want to be blunt, we're not doing this because we have a number of customers that they are very anti their data being in AI. Yeah, and we're not approved to use their data in AI, so we don't. Right. And we use AI for lots of things, but not our services. But one of the things that I think most organizations could benefit from is some level of AI asset inventory. And I don't mean an inventory of AI systems. I mean an inventory of what they're running.
Right, their assets.
Right. Yeah. Most organizations don't know. They can tell you, well, I've got 27 laptops. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but what's running on the laptops? I have 10 servers. Okay, but what's running on those servers, right? Even very, and matter of fact, we find it's even worse at smaller companies.
Oh, yeah.
They have domains that somebody registered and they're sitting out there doing something. They've deployed some application and nobody remembers where it was put or how it works or anything else like that. So an AI-driven asset inventory would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be, so if I was looking at how to solve a service problem for my customer, that's what I would do. The flip side of it is for me, and I think it's mainly because Secure Ideas has grown, I'm not going to say organically, because that implies some type of purpose to things. Yeah. I would argue we've grown accidentally, right? Like we sold more pen tests this month, so we hired people to help us do it. We don't subcontract. Everything is full-time employees. So one of the things that we have had, what I would say is a hurdle, is data. We have our CRM. We have a lot of data inside of our CRM that is, here's the customer we have, here's the work we've done, not the results. Like we don't put things like that, but we did this type of pen test and it was this much money and this, right, whatever. What we find between that and, the data that we have in Google Drive or whatever like that, data cleanliness is an issue for us, right? Yeah. And I want to be very clear. We have really strong data retention where we have automated systems that delete things over a certain age and everything else like that. But the ability to go into something and say, a dumb example, but I've got a few thousand customers that we've worked with or are working with, and not all of in the CRM, not all of them have a copy of the executed master services agreement.
Yeah.
Somebody forgot to upload it or whatever, right? And we use HubSpot as an example. I don't have a problem sharing that. It's obvious if you come to our website. In HubSpot, there's not a really good way to get a report on that kind of thing. So the ability to say to an AI agent, log into this system. Here are the basic data points I need to have for every single contract or company or deal or contact or whatever. And then give me a report of what data is not right and fix the things you can fix. To me, that would be an AI agent. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Very doable. Very doable. Yeah. Very cool. I love it. Love it. Kevin, thank you for taking some time and spending with us today. I think it's great. I can't wait to get this episode up and live. Honestly, we've never had a professional hacker on, and I love it. And you're a delight to talk to. So
thank you.
Yeah. Very easy, perfect. Loved having you, and we'll definitely you'll be a return guest for sure.
Awesome. I'd love to. It was a great. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that wraps up this episode of Future Proof, where we always say future proof the core important things in your business and automate the rest. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kevin.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.